In the game of Survivor, there are many questions. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And who has the best story? That's the mission of the Survivor Storytellers. It's what they do.
That is indeed what we do. Welcome, everybody, to the Survivor Storytellers. This is our fourth episode where we'll be talking about the pretty much the merge point of this season. I am Casey. Joining with me today, we have Ken, aka Laser Dude.
It's good to be here. Good to check out and see what the heck is going on in 43.
Yeah. And in addition to that, we have Tiki.
Yeah, I need to update my Tinder profile because I made the merge, which means I'm dateable.
So I guess before we get into it, we're just going to kind of, let's talk about the brief overview. What's going on with this season so far?
Brief overview.
Yeah, 40. You go ahead, Tiki. You go ahead.
Okay. Casey, you made the point right before we went on air that you don't have a ton to say about a lot of these people. And honestly, I'm feeling that, man. I feel like this season has been very, very MOR. It's been very middle of the road. A lot of these people are just kind of there. And I don't know, it's interesting because the one thing I do genuinely really like about this season from a broad spectrum point of view is I do feel like some of the drama is coming back a little bit more than it was. Like, there's certainly a little bit of kumbaya, like this episode, for example, we have the scene with everyone helping out Noelle, which that stuff is good to see. I just don't want that stuff to be like the majority of my Survivor experience. I like my conflict. And this season with characters like Gabler, I do think we are getting the conflict, and that has been a nice return. But I do think this cast, I don't even necessarily think it's a bad cast per se. I just think honestly, the storytelling hasn't been the editing has been even, but I almost feel like it's been too even to the point where if you're not a Cody or a Gabler, hell, even someone like a Sammy, I feel like is almost getting to be a little bit MOR in the edit, which is really weird. I would not have guessed that from him in episode 1. So
Tiki, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think it's the storytelling. I wasn't going to dive into this point right away, but this episode had one of the most major failings of a storytelling perspective that I've ever seen on Survivor, where we see Jesse flip on his tribe because he says in one line, "I trust Carla more than I trust Dwight and Noelle." We have not seen him exchange one word with Carla this whole season. Not one conversation, not one building of an alliance, not anything except for maybe hey, let's vote out Ellie. Beyond that, we haven't seen anything. And I'm like, if this is a thing where we are supposed to see Jesse jump ship and go with Coco because he trusts Carla more, that is a failing of the show that they didn't show us that at all, or any possible thing other than one line to explain that.
So, so there's a few different things that I do want to say in regards to this season so far. I totally get that point of what you were making about Jesse with Carla, which is there's an up and a downside to it. The upside is you can focus your time on more. The downside is we actually should have gotten elaboration of that a little bit more in regards to the story. And honestly, we could have just used a good 30-second to a minute scene to show you that. But I guess also at the same time, he did just straight up tell you, we've talked, we've had similar experiences, and I trust Carla more than I trust him. So yeah, that would have been really great to see. And I agree. I don't think that really failed the episode as a whole. I think Dwight has proven that he's a pretty smart player. Especially is more prevalent in the beginning. But I think it would have been great, which also touches upon what Tiki had said. I do like that very human aspect where people kind of do come together. But as it was starting to happen in the episode, I was thinking to myself, oh, great. Now we're going to dedicate 5 minutes to this. And we're only a third of the way done this challenge. They could have.
literally half the episode's runtime, and that to me was the biggest failing of this episode's storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. The challenge is, as long as the challenge is, they're trying to break it up. But yeah, that was another thing too, is that the pre-information, the starting tribe life segment was really short. I think it was less than like 3 minutes. It was incredibly short. But, I will say, going back to also an original point that you made as well, Tiki, in terms of the overview of this season, and is just that I do think, yes, you're right. A lot of the edit is middle of the road, but I do think we have a couple stronger personalities with, honestly, 2 people being, or 3 people. I think Cody, Carla, and Sammy have probably received the most prevalent edits. But even so, they subdue them at certain points. So it's really hard to tell with some of these people.
Yeah, like I said, I think Sammy in particular, I feel like his edit has been very subdued compared to how he started out.
Yeah, which
I just feel like his energy level isn't as high as he goes into the. But it felt like he, character-wise, he shot out of the game like a rocket, and it feels like he's playing a good game, but it feels like he's just like, as far as his presence goes, he's much more low key than he was in the first couple episodes.
But maybe
I think that's mostly just because like his story hasn't needed to be told a lot in these last couple of episodes. Like the Allie vote, we got a little bit from his perspective and voting her out, but it was mostly because of Gabler and him blowing up against her, and that was the story that was needed to be told in that episode. And in this episode, Sammy, let me just say, I had Sammy ranked like bottom of the pack in terms of chances to win when we started this whole thing. And I'm really impressed by it. He was on the right side of this vote, which I found that out. I'm like, wait, really? How is he doing this? And I think he's playing a really strong game. And I think he's playing the game. I think a lot of people thought that they thought like Xander was playing. Like, this is the game. He's playing the game that everyone thought Xander was playing, but he's actually playing it well. I just think sometimes it's just not your episode because it's not your story to tell. You're not really involved with it.
I agree. I mean, that sometimes you do have to take it episode by episode, but it does make me think that someone like Carla or Cody will potentially run far in this game. But I guess, yeah, let's just kind of dive into the individual characters. So we did say we were going to talk about Cody first. So what did you guys think?
I have warmed up on Cody considerably now that he's not just getting the lion's share of the edit. I think especially his merge edit is quite good. As far as like he's present, he's in the know, but it is definitely not a kind of like Coach or Russell style, like shoving the character down your throat, like I very much thought he was in the first couple episodes. So I'm liking Cody. I am. I do. Like, I'm not over the moon about him. I don't think he's like saving the season or anything, but he's certainly a breath of fresh air. He's a unique presence as far as. I definitely feel like the frat boy energy, the douchebag energy kind of fades away as you learn a little bit more about him. So I feel like I don't necessarily see him winning per se, but I almost kind of see him being the final obstacle for whoever is the winner, just because he is such a big character first and foremost.
I'm not sure, like, what is the reason to go after Cody? Like, eventually everyone's just going to have a reason to go after anybody. I just feel like Cody, he needs to have a big move on his resume that he did on his own. Like Tony was up to a bunch of crazy antics as well, but when he struck out on his own and orchestrated moves on his own, then everyone took him seriously. And I think, like, for Cody, he doesn't have that yet. Even this move, I feel, is more Jesse's move than Cody's move. Even though he got to dictate who it was, he said, "No, let's do Dwight." And then Cody's like, "Okay." Like, for Jesse, it didn't really matter which one it was. So I think, yeah, I don't know. He's fun. I thought it was hilarious when it was like, what are you doing this challenge for at the end? And everyone was saying these deeper, like, was like, I've always dreamed of winning immunity. And Gabe was like, this is for all the veterans. And then he's like, I once lost a wrestling match and I regretted that for the rest of my life.
I thought that I honestly thought I honestly thought that moment was endearing. Like, not because it's like some over the top, like, I honestly thought it was endearing specifically because it wasn't an over-the-top sob story.
Yeah, no,
yeah, I agree.
Just think it's funny. It's one of those things that is genuine. This is like Coach. It gives me Coach energy, that sort of thing, where he is like really genuinely a weirdo,
coach, doesn't he?
So here's my thing. Well, first off, for anyone who doesn't know, Coach is actually my all-time favorite player. I'm not saying he's the best player by any means, but Coach is my all-time favorite. But it's something that I actually was thinking about in regards to this episode. So in this season, in the more recent boots that we've had, I think there is a failed mastermind, a good mastermind. There is the lovable goofball who's got a great social game and could win the game. And then there's another goofball that people don't like. And I actually feel like Cody is the lovable goofball. And that's a part of his social game, and people know it. People love it. Everyone falls in love with Cody. He's proven that he's actually pretty decent in the challenges. And he does have, we see more so behind the scenes in the confessionals that he does have a strategic mind. And I think maybe some people recognize that, but that's not as prevalent of a detail to others as it is to the audience. But I could actually see Cody being exactly what I believe you said, Tiki, him being the potential final obstacle. I see Cody 100% making it to the end game. I feel like that's the story we're getting from him. And he is potentially, even if he doesn't make it to the very end, he's being potentially set up to return in a future season.
Oh, no doubt. I feel like out of everyone in this cast, he's like from the get-go, he's been like the returnee player setup. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to Jesse. Let's if we can, let's kind of pick up the pace on this. Jesse, I feel like his edit is definitely one of the most complex because like it's positive, but it's not always entirely positive. But I feel like that might actually in the long run be good for him just because it does show complexity to his character. Whereas Cody is very much just an OTTP, over the top positive presence. I feel like Jesse is more kind of like he leans more into like kind of like the toneless CP, even though he does have a very positive backstory. And I feel like the edit is kind of going out of its way to I just gendered the edit. Jesus. The edit is going out of his way. The edit is going out of the way to illustrate all of Jesse's moves, whether or not they are positive or negative. I feel like they're like we are getting a lot of the story through Jesse's perspective. It almost kind of reminds me of a more subdued version of Adam, but with less sloppy gameplay as far as like actually showing off the flaws.
See, this is another thing, another person who kind of confuses me in their edit. And maybe by the end, a number of these edits will make sense because aside from the fact that you have to edit for the season, you also sometimes have to edit for the episode, as we've previously said. But for Jesse, his original story was very much he was in a duo with Dwight. And now it's almost like they're painting him to be in a duo with Carla. But he does get that line of like, I got to give agency to Cody. So I don't know. I feel like he'll make it mid-merge and then potentially get some sort of blowback for Carla because I get the feeling they're going to potentially be some sort of duo. And so it would have been this whole season. His story was a story of his close-knit alliances, first with Dwight, and then I guess he hopped to Cody after they got rid of NECA.
I mean, I feel like he was always closer to Cody than he was to Dwight. I feel like he tried to pick up Dwight.
I feel like it was the opposite. They very much painted that story. What was it in episode 2 originally, then 3?
Yeah, but he blindsided Dwight on their first vote.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the story they were telling, though, was that they were partners. And it wasn't necessarily that, in my opinion, even though it would be the term a lot of people throw around, I don't really think he necessarily blindsided him. It was just like at the end, he had to do what he had to do. He was thinking about legitimately doing what Dwight wanted to do.
Yes, but he didn't tell Dwight that he was going to do that. He told Dwight that he was going to vote with Justine and didn't. So I always viewed Cody and Jesse as the pair more than Cody and Dwight, especially since Dwight said, I want to work with Jesse, but I can't trust him that much. So I always knew that this was going to come, that they were going to be coming for each other eventually. I didn't think it was this soon. And my brain has been racking my mind back and forth whether this was a good move or not. And we'll never know. But I think Survivor has been portraying them all as good moves. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that Survivor's painting Jesse in a positive light. And that could, it could go well for this game. They're trying to, maybe make the winner look good.
Sorry, we do see the blowback from people on it, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, there was a heavy focus with that. I would say, if anything, he's very middle in terms of the tone of it all.
I just feel like this is handing, like, I feel like he and Cody as a 2 with Coco is not a good safe spot for him. And I feel like unless he can pick up Ryan, unless he can read that Ryan is on the bottom of that alliance, that could change things up.
That's not hard of a read.
Me?
Yeah, I would agree.
And Ryan on the bottom of Coco, that's not exactly a hard read.
No, but yeah, I guess it all depends on Ryan as well, willing to work with him. But in any case, I do like Jesse, but there's a couple of times he's made a couple of moves, and all of a sudden, like, I'm just not sure of if what he's doing is smart or is just happens to be working out for him.
That's fair. Guys, let's quickly go over Dwight, because I got to tell you, Dwight's edit is probably, to me, the weakest one of the season. And I'm not even saying like he was a terrible character. I'm just saying like his edit was really, really inconsistent. Even down to details like them not following through totally with the Jesse relationship, like not really having all that much of a follow-up to it. I don't know, like even pre-game I always just felt like his personality was just a little flat to me.
I get what you mean with the his thing with Jesse, because I feel like with they have the island marriage, he proposes and then they're aligned, and then he betrays him, then they get it back together.
Right.
But I feel like then he's just thrown away like it's no big deal. Like I thought they were building to a sort of like Shan versus Ricard conflict sort of thing. And then he's just gone. It's just like whatever. It does kind of feel a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call his character like a terrible one or anything, or inconsistent. I don't know. I thought he was good.
I actually think he gave decent confessionals. I just think his edit was, like I said, just the distribution of screen time where they actually fit him in. Very sloppy.
Well, there's two things with that. One, I feel like with his character that they portrayed, Dwight, I think, was actually portrayed very well the first few episodes. But then once it shifted heavily to the other tribes, he kind of like fell under the radar to the audience. But I think I could read him well enough as a character this season. He was smart, but he made some miscalculated moves, and now he finds himself, on the wrong side of the vote and he's out. I wish he had more of a presence these past couple episodes, but I would honestly say there is probably one other person in the game right now who's probably received the worst edit, but we'll get to her when we get to her.
I knew it as soon as you said that. I'm thinking of a person, and then when you said her, I'm like, okay, I think we're thinking of the same person.
Which, we'll get to her soon enough. But I think we, unless we don't have anything else, I think we should move on to the final member of OG, Vesey.
Noel.
Yeah, Noel. Guys, Noel's a power player, don't you know? Okay, that to me was the narrative of the episode that I was like, wait, what? Him out of nowhere.
I mean, I think that, Jesse could have just been saying that because he liked Carla better than Noelle and was just trying to sell it to Cody.
Was like all over though. He's like, yeah, bro, she's gaming.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't think she's not a good player. I think she's just a little bit too transparent.
Yeah.
I think these 7 episodes so far have pretty much painted the picture that Noelle is not even top tier this season. She's very much like bottom mid at best. I think the picture's very clear that there's no way in hell she wins. But then again, a lot of Survivor players, a lot of them have winning games due to the last like 4 or 5 rounds of the game, so she has time to turn it around. But I think the picture's pretty clear that she's not that great. And the fact that she took that one piece of information and literally ran it to everybody else, like what? But then again, we're not here to talk about strategy, but in the storytelling of it all, I think that's what they're painting her character. She's not a contender, unfortunately.
Yeah, obviously very sympathetic, and not even sympathetic in the sense of like, oh, I have this hardship that I'm going through and we're going to beat you over the head with it. I like the fact that she has a sense of humor regarding her leg. I like the fact that the whole like the leg joke thing is actually kind of like a running gag on the show.
So they haven't really shown any leg jokes.
No, I know, but just the fact that she's referenced the leg joke thing a couple times kind of makes me chuckle.
I do appreciate, though, in the edit, her character is not the character who lost her leg.
Absolutely.
Like, she's become more than that. Yeah. And thank freaking God, because we have seen in previous seasons, if someone has some sort of disability, it ends up becoming who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chad.
What she reminds me of? She reminds me of season 1 Sarah Lucina. Too aggressive, a little bit too focused on the things that she shouldn't be, a little bit just too straightforward. That's kind of like just the way I see her game. I think she doesn't have any backup strategy. I think she would just get we saw that her and Dwight were getting a group together of her, Sammy, Janine, I think Owen, and I think maybe that was it. But it was so they had a plan going forward. I just don't think they had any backup plans, and I think Jesse felt like he wasn't part of her plans long term.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on now, I think we were going to talk about Baca next? OG Baca? So we have Janine.
Janine is, I feel like as far as her actual story goes, I'm not saying her edit is anything like this at all. But I'm just saying, like, the Charlie Brown quality of her story almost kind of reminds me of Spencer a little bit.
Casey, was this the person you were thinking of the edit?
Actually, it wasn't. I was going to say Cassidy.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Cassidy was which we'll get more into her later, but Cassidy was extremely invisible, at least like the first 3 to 4 episodes. And now she's getting a presence, but I don't quite know where that puzzle piece fits in the larger scheme of things. But I'm actually really curious if you thought that I was referring to Janine. So what do you think about Janine then? I assume you're considering her to be under edited.
I think, I don't really know what to make of her edit. Okay, we get the scene where she comes back, everyone comes to her and says, you're fine, you're safe, we're not going anywhere, and everything. And then she has the scene where she just is like, oh yeah, this might be good for my game in the long run, blah, 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 playing it up. And I don't know what tone Survivor is trying to portray with that. Are they trying to portray that she's playing well, or that she's overdoing it and is coming across as very transparent? I don't really get what is supposed to be coming up with that. So I don't know. I just find her edit a little bit uneven.
The way I read that scene, I almost kind of read that scene as Noelle was the one that was kind of being transparent.
Mm.
See, my whole thing is, and I said to both of you guys before the podcast started, so for anyone who doesn't know, I was on a trip recently, and so I kind of just been playing catch up, and I watched these 2 episodes back to back, and the way that I'm reading Janine as a character as well as her story arc right now, and slash I'm kind of hoping, is that maybe we're seeing this I'm going to say it's a survivor trope where we have a character who sort of gets kicked into the mud. They lose their number one ally. And then this is that moment in time where they come back, and this was the fuel they needed to propel their game forward into a winning game. And I mean, we have seen that on a number of occasions.
I feel like Natalie Anderson is probably the quintessential example of that.
Exactly. And that was the number one person who came to mind when I was watching the episode. And so that's the thing. I feel slash kind of hope that's what we're seeing here. But I mean, we could literally just be watching, this Charlie Brown segment and she'll never be able to kick the ball. Like, I hope it's not that. I'm happy
sorry, I felt so bad, but I was laughing so hard when she was doing like the hand thing to Dwight. I was
well, so the question is that are we going to see a flashback in the next episode where she gets her idol, or does he
I'm
really?
Pretty sure in exit interviews, Dwight confirmed that he did not give it back to her. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like
fucked.
Yeah,
I feel like you can't do that. I feel like if the votes are read, whoever has possession of it, they can play it on somebody else when Jeff gives them the opportunity, but you can't hand it back and forth. It's like the whole thing where somebody said, what if two people just held on to the idol and whoever gets voted off just lets goes? It's like,
well, to be fair, you are not officially out till your torch is snuffed. So if you go up there as your torch is being snuffed and you say, blah, blah, blah is a snake and a traitor and everyone should know it, Jeff's not going to stop them from saying it. So if you could just pass it off, why not pass it off? I
don't think it would be a problem. I even think the show would probably encourage it just because it'd be good TV.
Yeah. I think it's good TV when somebody is voted off with somebody else's idol. I mean, that is... Isn't that what everyone's talking about right now? Like, oh my gosh,
sure.
We're Justine. Justine said it reminds me a whole lot of Liana's from 41. Like I'm not sure if I ever voiced this when we did our storytellers, but I thought Liana had a chance to rise once Shan fell. That was my thing. It was like Shan's gonna fall and Liana's gonna rise up and take her place and rise the victor. And I feel like that never happened, and I feel like it's going to be the same for Justine. I feel like she's just not going to be anybody's target for a while. She's just going to flip to whichever side will take her, and eventually either just get to the end and get no votes or just be disposed of because she doesn't have actual numbers.
I'm sorry, Ken. I just need to correct you. You were saying Justine, not Janine.
Oh, sorry. Dang it. Yes. Janine is who I was meaning. Yes.
Very similar names phonetically. Anyways.
So let's kind of move on. I feel like we tackled Janine actually a lot more than I thought we would have, but we have Gabler.
Gabler! My man!
Gabler is the flip side to what I was saying with Cody. Cody is that sort of, lovable, doofus. But I think Gabler is just straight up a doofus who's not going to win if he somehow makes it to the end.
I dedicate this next minute to Gabler.
Which also
of this podcast.
Was it just me, or when that whole segment was going on, I got two vibes from it. As it was first happening, I got this almost like they were setting it up to be a comedic moment. He was going to slip and drop it, and he did end up slipping, but he didn't drop it. And then as it kind of went on, I felt as if, is this a Christian Hubicki sort of moment? And then as it went on, you do see the facial expressions from the other tribes people where they're kind of like laughing. It definitely was a comedic moment that the editors tried so hard to turn into a serious moment. And I think that is that is such a conflicting thing for me because I feel like nobody takes this guy seriously, but that edit, they could have made that moment shine, but they didn't. Why?
Now, here's the question. That challenge went on for 35 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Was there 35 dedications I want a list of every single dedication. Did he have like a timer going and was counting down? If there's 35 or whatever dedications, I want to know each and every one. Because by the end, you got to think he was running out of ideas. Like, this one goes to my dog. This one goes to that guy who once smiled at me crossing the street. It's like I work in radio. Like, you run out of things to dedicate to people.
Yeah.
Some people are quirky, and I'm sure he just is. He would have a million things to say, and you would just accept it all because you know who he is.
So I think
Gabler, going to the end or getting discarded. What do you guys think?
I could see him being a goat if he makes it to the end.
I honestly think he's going to leave soon.
I think we're going to get like a Roxroy type edit. I feel like Gabler's going to try to push something real hard. And since it's not Ellie and somebody will be against that, he's going to go. That's what I'm thinking.
I just feel like, I mean, even if he goes soon, something tells me they're not going to, like, it's also the same thing with James. Like, at this point, why even waste the ammunition trying to get James out? Like, he's clearly, not in the driver's seat. Granted, he did vote correctly this time, but
I mean, from the perspective of the game, every vote that he's done has gone his way.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with James not being in the driver's seat, honestly.
I mean, he wasn't the one that was initially even pushing this vote, but this is now 2 times in a row where like he is the potential vote and people were trying to get him out.
Yeah, well, things are still going.
And he dodged them both. That's also a big thing on your resume too.
I don't think the story is telling us that James saved himself. I think the story is telling us that other people saved him.
Sure. We'll get to James in a minute. Anything else on Gabler?
Gabler for me is just from a character point of view. He's like the best casting choice on this season, and it's not even freaking close.
We need more players to just say, "Hey, I'm going to do the stupid thing." It's like we got the flipping, the water well. Everyone's like, all right, we'll all not go off together. We need more people to be like, hey, I'm going to run and go get it now. We need players who, when they're like, oh, okay,
I did really appreciate
so we don't have to make a decision. We need people to just make dumb decisions. We need people like Gabler.
I like seeing good gameplay. I don't necessarily like seeing stupid gameplay. Yeah, it makes for an entertaining moment here or there, but
I feel like that's like a fundamental difference between the two of us, Casey, because I love the I don't know. I love the Keith Nails of the role.
You just said your favorite character of all time was Coach.
Yeah. He I mean, the thing is, he definitely has made stupid decisions, but overall, I don't like people that are overly dumb making I always think of the moment in Tony's second season where like in what was that, Game Changers, where they talk about the idol or whatever, and then he goes running like, what the hell are you doing? Or the way that he like came at Sand, like just stupid, like overly stupid things when you're playing with veterans that you should not be doing. Although I guess it made for his win, his second win, super satisfying to see that kind of transformation.
Just kind of like buying into his stereotype a little bit.
Yeah, but it was also really dumb to do that with experienced players. But anyway, Gabler, 0 chance of winning the game.
I still maintain, if this season,
Tiki. No,
for as wonky as this edit is,
no, Tiki. No, we discussed this last time. He's not a Bob Crowley. It's not happening.
He has a consistent narrative.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that. We had a little issue with the recording there, but we were just going on to...
That is why Gabler is going to win Survivor 43.
Thinking your hot take, stop the recording before. No more, okay? No more.
All right.
He'll win his returning player season. Anyway.
So we do have Owen. I don't actually have a ton of thoughts, but I'm curious what you guys have to say.
I don't know what to think about Owen. I feel like Owen's biggest character trait is just like breaking the fourth wall almost.
I mean, I feel like Owen's a guy that is probably actually would be decent of Survivor, but he's just found his way at the merge and he has no real alliance, no prospects, no nothing. And he's just like pissed off because of it. And he's like, has no choice but to sit and watch everybody else play. And he's like, gosh dang it, why can't I do any of this? Like, I know what to do. I know what to do, but I don't have the social capital with these people.
Yeah.
Brian.
See,
I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I think he's an underdog to win, honestly. I really do. I feel like I feel like somebody needs to make a major mistake and him capitalize that in order for that to happen. Hope he doesn't give Noelle her extra vote back, though.
I think honestly, out of everyone in the cast, he probably has one of the least connective edits as far as narrative flow goes. Like, he just kind of exists.
well, I feel like Owen sort of serves whatever purpose they need him to serve for the episode. So
Right.
like last episode, not the official merge episode, but the fake merge episode, he served as like a reliable narrator, sort of, when he was talking about all the advantages. The episode before that, he served as like the perfect comedic relief when he walked in on Janine and Ellie.
Right, yeah.
You know, so like he just kind of serves whatever purpose they need him to serve to fill in. But in terms of what his actual stake is as a character, I have absolutely no clue. But I do believe Owen was the only one that got a confessional about the advantage he received this episode, right?
I think Dwight was explaining that they were switching stuff up.
But he's the only one that actually talked about what advantage he had.
Yeah, I think possibly, yeah, you might be right about that.
I mean, I could be wrong. It's literally a thought that I just thought of like a minute ago. But I mean, that could mean something. It really could mean something. Maybe he does keep it.
I think he should. I mean, think about this. Noelle is on the wrong side of the boat. She's a sinking ship. Why give it back to her? Oh, because social, it's like, you don't know her anything. Give yourself a chance to win this game and keep it.
Well, actually, to be fair, and maybe I'm just misremembering, this is part of the reason I don't like binge watching shit, but Noelle and Owen technically were on the same side of the vote, but they were splitting it, right? Or am I misremembering that? They were splitting it between James and Ryan.
Yeah, they were, but it was like a Baca Vessi split. So it was like all of Baca was voting one way, all of Vessi was voting another way. So yeah, I'm just trying to think, has Owen been on the right side of many votes? Because he didn't vote Ellie off. He with his tribe first one, I guess he voted off. He helped vote because otherwise it was him going. He voted off. Miranda? Mariah.
Did he vote out Mariah?
Yeah, because she was voting him.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But he hasn't been on the right side of the vote since the first vote. Now, to be fair, he's only been in 2 more tribals since then. But I feel like the only people we saw him have any real connection with was Ellie, who's gone, and then a little bit of Sammy, but he's not voted with Sammy. Sammy and Gabler voted off Ellie, and he didn't. And then Sammy voted off Dwight, and he didn't. So it's like, I feel like Owen's just on a sinking ship all by himself.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody will pick him up and maybe he can maneuver from there. Like, honestly, I don't know if anyone's really going to be gunning for him because of him being more of a free agent.
I honestly see him being like the first boot of the finale. I could see people like keeping him around a long time just because of his lack of agency, but getting rid of him just because he's likable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of him.
No.
All right. Well, I guess moving on, we have only one person left on Vessi, and that is Sammy.
Baka.
Or Baka, not Vessi. Baka.
Yeah, I
Sammy.
already kind of said my piece on Sammy. I think as a character, he kind of shot out of a cannon in the first episode. And I think just based on his gameplay, honestly, he's been a lot more subdued since then. But I think to me, the biggest point in his favor is the fact that he won out in the Ellie versus Sammy storyline. Because Ellie didn't even really, she never even caught on to the fact that from pretty early on, he was targeting her. And I think that does speak volumes to his game ability. I definitely think he's probably like in the upper like third of players in this game, just as far as like his skill level goes.
And he was
like
even able to convince her that he was with her even when Gabler blew it up.
Exactly. Right. I just think that his personality is a little like his confessional presence and stuff. It's a little bit more subdued, but I do think that's probably just a mix of the elements and his, he is trying to play a relatively low key game. Like, I feel like he's very cautious of being perceived as the person that's running the ship. And I feel like he is actually pretty skilled with his threat level. Like, that's one of the things that the edit kind of like hammered down our throats was the whole like, oh, I'm 19 years old and I'm telling people I'm 22 and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's very good at perception.
I feel like Sammy's strategy right now is just to let everybody else make the move and just position himself well. Good positioning is half the game of Survivor. And right now, he has been on the right side of every vote. Or except for the first vote. He voted, no, maybe he did vote right the first vote too. I can't remember now. But he's voted correctly at the merge. He voted with, so that means that he has either a connection with somebody on Coco or with Cody or Jesse in some way, somewhere in that group. He has a connection enough that he was trusted enough that he's clued in. So I think he's in a pretty good spot no matter which way it goes. I feel like nobody's going to be gunning for him right away. I feel like he just needs to lay low, keep his numbers to his side, and then strike at when the moment is hot.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I mentioned, Cody and Carla being up there, and I did briefly mention Sammy too. But, I could, and I might have also contradicted myself because my thoughts are all over the place as we start to talk through things. But Sammy, one of two things is going to happen. His edit's going to ramp back up, and it's going to be a ramp up to him being voted out of the game, or it's going to be a ramp up to him making it to the end. Whether he makes it to the end, we don't know. But I mean, I think he's playing a fantastic game because this is kind of the point where you do want to come back and let all the other big personalities expose themselves. And I think that's exactly what's happening right now. He was prevalent because his tribe was, in danger. They were the first, tribe to go to tribal council, and then they were potentially in danger, although they did not go back. So I don't know. I feel like Sammy, crazy enough, might break that youthful archetype, and I think he could potentially win it. He has proved that he is actually a pretty smart 19-year-old kid.
Like miles above like the Will Walls of the world.
Oh my God, yeah.
Heck, I'd say he has more game than Fabio.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I love Fabio, but yeah, I think that's like objectively true.
I mean, I think he's already proven that he's a better player than a lot of people, winner or no winners, young or old, So I'm just very excited to see where he goes from here. But I think he's had
because based on pregame, a lot of people were expecting him to just be like an early flame out who had too domineering of a person.
I was.
Yeah.
I had two thumbs down on the guy.
We also are thinking about that youthful archetype. They never usually do well. So I think it was completely reasonable to think that. But I mean, he has showed that he is smart, he's sociable, and he's pretty good at challenges.
All right.
Will he win an individual? We don't know.
Okay, so Coco, I honestly think is going to go by pretty fast because, to be honest with you, they all kind of blend together for me a little bit. Carla continues to be, for me, I hate to say, I feel really bad saying this, but her edit to me is just so boringly perfect. Just as far as like, it is about the most if she is the winner, it is about the most traditional winner's edit, quote unquote, that we could possibly get. Even stuff like Jesse, randomly, like the thing that you mentioned, Ken, with Jesse, randomly deciding that she was his number one. That was a bad scene for Jesse. It was a great scene for Carla as far as like indication goes. I don't know. Like, I really hope that things shake up for her, because if they don't, I find her story to be frankly kind of boring. Like, I just feel like she's almost kind of like, she's definitely got skill. I just don't necessarily, I don't know. Do you guys, am I being harsh here?
I am game for a dominant game. Okay, that's what I'm saying here. We've had the last couple of winners have been very mild. Now, I totally think 41 was the edit's fault. 42, Marianne is a fine winner. She deserved her win, absolutely. But she wasn't a dominant player, bar none. And I've turned around on Carla. Like, I feel like she is playing this game really well, and I think that a lot better than I was giving her credit for. And the stuff that I was going to think that was going to trip her up, I don't think it is. Tiki, you and I, we talked last time when we talked. We said that we thought that James was going to be able to hide underneath Carla's shadow, and that he was going to be able to maneuver around while everyone was focused on her. But we've seen in these two episodes, that is not the case. James is the one that looms large, and Carla is hiding underneath his shadow is able to maneuver through that. James is the one everyone is looking at and saying he's the social threat. He's the one that is playing the best. And I feel like that means Carla has so much wiggle room that even when they do come for her alliance, they're not coming for her. And that gives her plenty of time to maneuver with her idol that, as far as we know, nobody else knows that she has.
Yeah.
And that's another point where it's like, I feel bad for saying that, but it's like, I see her win coming from a mile away, and I don't want the winner to be predictable. And that's, I hope that at the very least, if she does win, I hope at the very least we see a little bit more of a villainous streak to her, because she does have the tendency to have some
Lindsay, man.
villainous streak.
What's that?
I said she voted out Lindsay for no real good reason.
Right.
I would not say that she is pure of heart, so to speak.
That it leans into that is what I'm saying.
Wait, you're saying there was no good reason to get Lindsay out?
No, I'm saying it was villainous because she was an ally.
Yeah, but like, okay, look at also someone like Gabler. Gabler is potentially a big liability, and Lindsay was becoming a big liability due to her fucking insane paranoia, which I was not expecting to happen and was very upset about.
It was weird.
But anyway, that whole thing aside, with Carla, though, I agree. I think that she's probably the closest thing that we have to a surefire winner. And she's a dud of a physical competitor. And I'm, not literally physical, but any of the challenges I'm referring to. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think her character's been very fun. In a sense, she's like the voice of reason, but she's the voice of reason to us. And she has shown that she is, good socially and strategically. If she wins the game, I wouldn't be surprised, and she'd deserve it, from what we've seen. But regardless, we just know that she's going to be a very big player.
Right. Okay, so yeah, James, Ken, I'm kind of on board with you about, like, to me, the thing that was selling me on the James edit was the whole, like, playing like a king and having people perceive me as a pawn, and that's obviously kind of gone out the window at the merge, and I think that more than anything has kind of killed his equity a little bit. And also, can we
Yeah.
just acknowledge this? What the hell is up with his voice? What happened to that dude's voice? Is he okay?
Yeah, he was like auto-tuned. He was like, I think that
Like, does he have strep throat or something? What's going on there?
it was so weird.
Like,
It's
I
like,
would be,
did
I
he
would
get,
be
did he get a bad
legitimately
cigarette
worried about some
habit
sort of, like,
and needs
infection
one
or
of those
something with
things?
him.
Well,
Dude,
James's
like
voice
Mike
thing
Holloway
aside,
vocal issues.
what's that?
I said it reminds me of Mike Holloway's vocal issues.
Oh,
Mike
God.
Holloway's a lot worse.
Well, James's whole voice thing aside, yeah, I don't think I think James is getting a lot of shit for things, but I don't think he's in control. I think he's very much potentially, I guess, Carla's right-hand man, and I think he's sooner or later just going to finally get the axe, because I think he's going to start racking up so many votes, because I think he currently has the highest amount of votes of any of the players left in the game.
Makes sense, yeah.
Not by a lot. I think it's like 4, but even so, yeah, I think it's going to get to a point where people are going to be like, all right, he survived like 3 votes. He's got all this, and everyone thinks that he's this, that, and the other. I do think he has a good social game, and I think the early episodes proved it. But I don't think I don't think he's long for the world.
Well, here's the thing. When you become the number one target of the opposite alliance, you need your alliance to be so loyal that they vote against their own interests. That's the way that the bigger players in the past got through. That's how Tony got through in Cagayan. That's how, that's how like Boston Rob got through in Redemption Island, where his alliance was just so loyal, they never even focused. But we live in the modern age. It's only 26 days. People are willing to play super fast. And I think you're right. I think once you're the target now, unless you find a way to lower your threat level and throw the target on somebody else, you're not going under that radar again, especially not if you have the knowledge is power advantage.
And you're
which
telling
now
people outside of your alliance. Like, what was he doing telling Cody about that? Seriously?
Also, why the fuck did they just hide an advantage like that? That's so dumb. It's so uninspired. I feel like it's just like they're like, we have this advantage. It needs to be in this episode, so we're just going to put it in a place where someone's literally going to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
42, they had to, at the very least, the red paint hand thing, It's like, this seems like look, when Survivor did this a few times back in the day where they hit it in camp, but I mean, this does feel a little half-arsed, especially because it took James like 0 seconds to find it. It's I don't know.
The only thing that I'll say about it is that because of it being very public, people were able to shift the strategy of the knowledge is power in this season versus the last 2 seasons, which made for an interesting pivot. But also at the same time, that shouldn't, I just get rid of the fucking advantage. But anyway, I guess that's not a part of the storytelling aspect of this all. But that's all my thoughts on James.
I do think that James, just as a character, he is very likable, even with the voice issue.
I find no issue with his voice.
I kind of do.
I like the guy, but I mean, he's not my favorite.
Well, I like the guy too, but his voice sounds like sandpaper.
It sounds a little robotic, but he's a good player. I just think, once the target's on you this big and you have an advantage like this, it's not going to, that target's not getting smaller anytime soon, and it's eventually going to cost him.
Now, someone with no target now is Cassidy, and I actually thought that Cassidy was like getting a decent like UTR edit as far as like, like with female winners, we all know that they tend to be under edited. And I thought she had a good couple episodes right before the merge with the feud with Gio and everything. Like that to me, like I was like, okay, like maybe something is emerging here. Nope. Literally the only thing we've seen from Cassidy in the 2 episodes since the merge is that she liked Ellie and wanted to work with Ellie, basically reinforcing like the girl power theme of her edit. And that's like it. Like other than that, she's been just pretty much completely invisible.
Yeah, this Cassidy is the person who I think's edit has been the weakest. I briefly touched upon it earlier. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That was a part of what was shown for her. But I think honestly, most of her edit, aside from it being invisible, it's been very much she's a target.
Mhm.
She's a target, and so she has to be a part of the episode for that reason.
It was
Which
not a
actually-
good omen that Carla and James like were tempted to blindside her. That was not a good omen.
No, which also I just literally looked it up. So currently, James and Cassidy both have 4 votes. They have the most votes against them in the game so far. But I think there is a big difference between the two. James is actually seen as a contender. Cassidy is not. And as we get further into the game, Cassidy is going to 100% just play the under the radar card if she makes it to the end. Because as you get further in the game, you really do have to take out the big threats. Cassidy's going to be non-factor. And I think that's going to be her character.
Totally.
I just don't see any reason to go after her unless you like already have unless you somehow finagle an alliance between like Gabler and like I don't know, maybe Cody. Well, Cody's likable, but it's like the 2 biggest goats in the game, then you might vote her out. But she's not a threat. Maybe if they do one of those things where they split the tribes into 2, like they've been doing that consistently, we're halfway through the merge, they'll strip them into 2 different groups and they'll all vote. I could see her maybe going home at one of those. But besides that, what reason do you have to vote her?
Yeah, which I really hope they don't do that. It's a fucking merge. We're not in the tribes anymore. But the thing is,
if they're really going to make a big point about the earn the merge thing, especially.
They've already earned it,
Yeah.
I think, also I will say
I'm
with
just
the
saying
whole
they've
earn
done
the
it
merge.
twice.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the back-to-back seasons, so let's just hope it's not this case. But they're fixing a lot of issues that 41 and 42 had. So
Yeah, but I'm just saying we complained so much about all the other stuff in 41 and 42. I don't think anyone got around to complaining about that.
That's true.
I mean, let's just hope it's not another thing on there. But all right, last person, Ryan. Don't have a lot to say about him. I think he has proven to be someone who's got very little awareness in the game.
Oh yeah.
Socially, his
The
perception's
7 guys, the 7 at this table. Let's forget all of our alliances that we've had all day and just go on this table right now as the 7.
Even the way that he talked to who was he partnered with? James during the challenge, right after they lost the challenge. He pretty much
pissy.
yelled at James for not paying attention. And it's not a good color. But you know what I will say? I think Ryan's clearly not going to win, but there is something about Ryan that I can't help but feel bad. I just can't. I think it's something from Ryan on a personal level, what he discussed in the very first episode.
I can tell you exactly what it is for me. It's the fact that he literally spells out the fact that he has a disability that makes it harder for him to socialize.
Yeah, and it sometimes I forget about it in the moment, but then when I start thinking about it,
When you start thinking about it, it actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it sort of breaks my heart too, because nobody else on the island knows that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just fear that they'd rip him apart later if it gets to it.
I think the thing with Ryan is that it's a struggle for him, obviously, that he's doing through. But I think sometimes people forget that the social aspect of the game is the most important part of the game. Having good strategy and voting strategically is great, but let's be honest here. More people have won this game because of their social skills than of their strategic skills by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like because of that, right? It's just he's just not been able to compete on the same level with everybody. And I want to say, though, this guy gives it his all in the challenge. If there's one area that he pops, it's on the challenge. That thing 2 episodes ago where Carla, I couldn't get up because she was only using one hand. And he's like, I'm going to flip and Spider-Man this thing and just lays backwards and just climb my body. I'm like, that is some of the
That to
craziest.
me was like just as impressive as anything Jonathan did last season.
Oh yeah,
I will also say I was literally like when Jeff was introducing the challenge, I was literally thinking somebody should do that. They should tangle their legs in the net and then use their hands. But yeah, that's the thing. Ryan is he feels like they're portraying him as a loyal character who gives everything his all in the challenges, but just has no perception of the social side of things. And that is his dramatic downfall.
It almost kind of reminds me of Rupert a little bit, dare I say it. Just because he's so focused on being the provider. He's so focused on that side of things. He's not taking any sort of social... the reason I say that is honestly even like it goes down to his secret scenes, because both of the secret scenes since the merge have revolved around him. The one from last week was... just while everyone was like kind of like socializing right after the merge, he was going around gathering firewood. And then this time it was like he was like right before they had to leave for tribal, he was like, I really should be socializing, but this is a really good time to be fishing and I need to fish because I want to. And that to me is like big Rupert energy of like,
yeah,
you know, I know obviously character wise he's nothing like Rupert, but
yeah, I mean, some people find some sort of way to make themselves valuable to others. And being the provider does go a long way. But those secret scenes aren't in the episodes, so they're not even though they're deleted scenes, they're not a part of the narrative they're portraying right now.
Sure.
Everyone finds Survivor, and everyone who finds Survivor finds it in a different way for something else. You know, it's like for someone like me, it's all about the strategy and the moves that people are making and how to outmaneuver and outsmart other people when allies become enemies and enemies become allies. That sort of finagling the way through the game is what really drives me for it. Some people, it's all about the challenges, running up those things, tackling, putting the puzzle together. That's what really gets people blood pumping. And some people, it's about being out there in the wilderness and the survival aspect. And all of them, they're 100% a viable way to enjoy Survivor, but playing Survivor is a different thing. And sometimes you just can, the game itself will always be played, whether you're playing it or not. And because of that, sometimes the aspect of the game that you love the most and the aspect that you dislike the most, sometimes the stuff that you dislike the most is the most important stuff.
Yep. I want to end on a positive note for Ryan, though, because one of the big things, like even from episode 1, when he was talking about his disability, that I was worried about was I was worried that the fan base was going to eat this guy up as far as like negatively. And honestly, it's been the opposite. Like the fans.
No, we love the guy.
Yeah. And they say like it's super refreshing that a guy that's like as jacked as he is has such a big heart, and like the dude like literally like wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's like super refreshing. So I am very happy that at the very least the fan base is embracing him, because frankly, fans of reality TV can be fucking brutal to people who have mental health issues and like and are neurodiverse. So I am very happy that the fan base is embracing him.
And it's like last season, the fan base was for Jonathan in the beginning, but by the end, we kind of they kind of turned on him. I don't see the fan base turning on Ryan. When Ryan goes, and it's going to be a win, it's going to be a sad thing. Everyone's going to be like,
to be fair, though, they turned on him for a more justifiable reason.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying they just turned on him for no reason. I'm just saying even if Ryan does tries to do some strategic move and gets voted out for it because it wasn't like strategically all there, I don't think anyone's going to leave the game with bad feelings.
Honestly, with as far as his strategy goes, I feel like people kind of love him because of his that pitch of the final 7 is like an all-time stupid move, and it's a memorably stupid move.
Yes.
It was really good TV.
Yeah, I mean, I think although, we still have a lot of players left in the game and we still do have a 7 versus 4 scenario. I think, he's also another person who it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to get him out unless he ends up just being a wild safe option. I think people are just going to try and use him for a number because there are bigger targets at play.
I'm honestly penciling him in to be a GOAT. I really am. I really see that being
I could see it being him, Gabler, or Cassidy. But yeah, all right.
What if that's the final 3?
I would be excited,
That
actually.
is not going to
Gabler
happen.
would win,
That's not the
motherfuckers.
Gabler winning scenario, Tiki. I will vote for Ryan myself. Okay. No, I'd probably
All right.
vote for Cassie.
All right, guys. I think we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any prediction? Do we think this 7 is going to hold, or it's going to be a
No.
new group together next episode?
I honestly think this season has had a lack of emphasis on, like, I feel like the alliances this season have been very much episode by episode and not season long arcs. And I think it's going to be a very fluid post merge because of that.
Honestly, next season, one tribe should just stick together as much as they can, and they'll probably be the final 4. Like, someone try Pagonging this again, and I think you'll be fine because I think everyone's going to flip flop anyways.
I'm honestly over 3 tribes at this point. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys are feeling the
Change
same.
it up, Jeff.
I would be totally down for 2 tribes of 9 with a tribe swap in the middle of the pre-merge.
Ugh. Tribe swaps, I go back and forth. I feel like they are a necessary evil, but
I think they're
no
necessary
tribe swaps
evil
is
with 2
actually
tribes
so
together.
exciting. I actually like the 3 tribes. I do.
I
Because
just
then
think
you
it's
really
like-
need to weigh your options of who's good for competitions and who's good for my social game.
Yeah.
It makes for very tough decisions.
Variety is the spice of life, and that's what's been missing in the new era of Survivor. It's been a lot samey. So if we want to do a thing where it's like 2 tribes one season, 3 tribes next season, and go back and forth like that, I'm fine with that. Just don't do the same thing. Don't cheat off your last homework and repeat what you did the next year, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, by that logic, they've been doing that for like 36 seasons with tribe swaps, But I'll say this, and then I think we should end it. But I do think that with them keeping the 3 tribes of 6, it leads for the possibility of creating better advantages that could shake up the tribe without doing all the players swapping.
Fair enough.
That's my final note. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next podcast.